CBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
Kelly throws for the end zone. Treadwell, jump ball, touchdown. High snap. Kelly has to collect it. Makes a desperation heave into traffic. Treadwell off his hands and into the hands of Adebayo. A crazy carry and a touchdown for the Rebels.
Three-man rush this time. Man, good catch. It's Beckham. Sprinting away. Touchdown. Porter steps up. Look again. Wide open Robinson. He's got it. Touchdown Jaguars. Manziel off the play. Big first pass of the day. Looking long. Middle of the field. He has Benjamin. He makes the catch. And he's into the end zone. Touchdown Cleveland Browns. Dalton. Deep ball. Separation. Marvin Jones. Touchdown Bengals. The ball is out. It is picked up by the Broncos. Roby. And he's hit the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
It's basically a football show. We talk about football, and there was football to be played. Greg, what'd you think of the weekend? Kind of a middling NFL week and some pretty big upsets in college.
It was a very interesting week because we learned that we don't know a whole lot still, but we did learn a couple things in the NFL. We've also seen college start to kind of straighten itself out a little bit. You're starting to see the teams that may have been overranked starting to fall back down to where they belong. So we're kind of getting into the rhythm of things here, but we're not quite there where we know exactly what's going on in the NFL, but we're getting closer.
Let's start with that National Football League. Some of the things we thought we knew last week, of course, week one overreactions, get corrected this week or don't really get solidified at all. Let's start on Thursday in Kansas City, where the Chiefs were hosting the Broncos. The Chiefs looked good early. They were up 14-0, got a pick six off Peyton Manning. Broncos come back to tie it, though, 14-14. It's 17-17 after the third quarter. And into the fourth, Kansas City goes up 24-17 with 2:27 to go. But you have one of the greatest of all time, Peyton Manning, but he hasn't looked all that great up until the fourth quarter. And then he orchestrates a perfect Peyton Manning 2-minute drive, ties the game at 24 with 36 seconds left. Kansas City gets the ball, looks like they're going to run it and just run down the clock and go to overtime, except the first carry. Jamal Charles fumbles the ball. Bradley Roby scoops and scores to take the lead with 27 seconds left. Broncos win 31-24. Broncos are 2-0. Chiefs 1-1 in what was one of the first big divisional games of this NFL season.
What I took out of this game, and I'm curious to see if you saw the same thing, the Broncos offense was pretty much inept until they finally said, you know what, Peyton Manning be Peyton Manning. And then all of a sudden, here we go. Yeah. Which raises the question, what is Gary Kubiak thinking with trying to do this run-first offense when you've got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, you've brought that up a couple times here now, and I finally am jumping on that wagon with you. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect Peyton, that maybe he's not up to his past performances, sure, but you look at what the Broncos did in the fourth quarter when they finally said, hey, Peyton, go orchestrate a Peyton Manning two-minute offense. He was effective. They got a little luck there with the fumble with 27 seconds left of the game. The offense finally got to where it was, and I think even if they had gone into overtime, based on that, I think the Broncos probably still would have won this thing in overtime if they allowed Peyton to continue to be Peyton.
I totally get it. If you've got, and I'm not saying that C.J. Anderson's not a great running back, but he's not Adrian Peterson. I just don't understand. I've been baffled by this since the first time I heard it. With Peyton Manning, I would think you want to get the most Peyton Manningness out of him that you possibly can, and handing the ball off to C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman, not going to get that job done for you. They just illustrated it so perfectly. I thought this is such a perfect microcosm of the first two games for the Broncos. When they try to do the run-first stuff, it's just not working for them. They give Peyton the ball and go, do your thing, and it was like they were scoring effortlessly at that point. Maybe Kubiak will figure it out, and they'll be okay, but they keep trying this run-first thing. It's going to be a lot of games like this, and I don't know if that's the best move.
Well, speaking of running, there's been some criticism of Andy Reid, of course.
Always.
Especially if he loses a tight game like this with time. But if you're the Chiefs and you're just going to run the ball and go to overtime, why do you even bother taking chances to just kneel?
I understand the philosophy to an extent. You've got
Maybe
Jamal Charles.
One, right?
Maybe he breaks one, right? But to do what they did, basically handing off out of the shotgun like that, that's not your basic garden variety running play. And again, I don't know if he's going to break anything out of the shotgun anyway, because Denver knows you're not going to try to throw. You've got Alex Smith, who's a perfectly serviceable passer, but not a guy that's going
to hurl it 80 yards.
Exactly. So it was just a bad call on Kansas City's part, a bad break, and I think the Broncos, out of the undefeated teams we have so far, might be the shakiest of the bunch. And that's not their own fault. That's just the way they've been coached so far.
The important thing, though, is that they're picking up the victories, right?
Right.
If the Broncos can work out these kinks and, maybe they figure out what they actually want to do with the offense or what works the best, and that starts to click as the season goes on, then maybe we'll see what we expect the Broncos can be going forward. Move on to Sunday, and we'll start with some of the early games. The Houston Texans at the Carolina Panthers. Houston going with Ryan Mallett at quarterback over Brian Hoyer. Cam Newton has probably what's one of the plays of the year thus far. Takes the ball, goes to dive into the end zone. He's up in the air, gets hit, somersaults, gets hit again, and almost nearly sticks the landing in the end zone for the 17-10 lead. Panthers end up going up 24-10 in the midway through the fourth. The Texans get it tight, but Ryan Mallett can't complete the comeback, and the Carolina Panthers hold on for the victory. Mallett in his first start with the Texans, 27-58, 244, a touchdown and an INT. Not bad, but not good enough.
That's a lot of passes, too, for a Houston Texans team that probably needs to balance that out a little bit better. Look at the Panthers, 2-0 out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the gate, and like we said last week, probably an insurmountable lead in that division at this point, if the Falcons can manage to lose one.
There is some, optimism that maybe that division's not completely garbage, at least at the top. So that's nice to see. And the Texans, 0-2, not the best start for them. J.J. Watt hasn't really made a huge impact in the first two games either. That whole defensive line that was touted up as Watt and Wilfork and Clowney, they're kind of pedestrian here through 2 weeks.
J.J. Watt picked up another sack, which I think makes it 7 straight games he's had a sack.
Yeah.
But for him to be the J.J. Watt that we saw last year, there has to be more of that. And when you've got Clowney and Wilfork too, you need a little more dominance on the front line, and I'm just not seeing it so far. And this was a team we talked about going into the season that to be a playoff team probably needed to go 9-7, 10-6 at least. And after an 0-2 start, it's going to be very difficult for them, I think, to make the playoffs at this point.
And offensively, I guess you go with Ryan Mallett going forward because he wasn't terrible. But, you change quarterbacks at the first game of the year. That's
right.
I don't know if that's really confidence-inspiring. And then going to the second game, he's not bad, but still, like you said, too many throws. Too many throws.
And of the two, of Brian Hoyer and Mallett, I think Mallett's probably got more talent, more ability. But the knock on him has always been his attitude, his approach to the game. So if he can get it together, I think he's got enough talent to run this team effectively. But an 0-2 start for these guys it's just tough. They've got to get at least a 1-1 start out of the gate because they need all the wins they can get. And this was probably a winnable game for them, and they couldn't get it. So the Panthers off to a nice start. The Texans maybe in a little bit of trouble already.
Move on to Pittsburgh, where the San Francisco 49ers, a rough draw for the Niners, I got to say. A 10 a.m. Pacific start time after the late doubleheader Monday night game. Not that that's an excuse for how they played on Sunday, but not great. Pittsburgh just demolished the 49ers.
I think this is a good example of why you don't want to overreact on Monday because the 49ers looked great. Carlos Hyde looked like the second coming of Adrian Peterson. Yeah, and the Steelers just came out and just ran the doors off of them. So
Big Ben, 21-27, 369, 3 touchdowns. Antonio Brown, 9 catches for 195 yards and a touchdown to get the Steelers to 1-1 and drop the 49ers to 1-1.
How about D'Angelo Williams, too? 3 touchdowns again. Well, not again this week, but 3 touchdowns this week, 77 yards, doing a nice job of subbing for Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers team looks good right now.
Steelers team looks really good. We'll go down to New Orleans, where the Saints are not looking so hot as the Tampa Bay Bucks came into town. Jameis Winston looking for his first win, and Tampa Bay looked pretty good early. They were up 17-7. They go up 20-7, 23-7, forcing turnovers. But the Saints forcing turnovers their own. They make a late comeback to get to the 23-19. But again, another fumble. Tampa Bay recovers, kicks the field goal, wins 26-19. Jameis Winston wins his first game, and the Saints lose their 6th straight home game in the Dome. The biggest news really coming out of this, though, is Drew Brees with a bruised rotator cuff.
Ooh.
There was some fear that it might have been a tear. They took the MRI, just a bruise. It doesn't seem likely that he's going to play this weekend, and that's not good, as the Saints are already 0-2. And, we joked last year about the NFC South and how, you could start 0-6 and maybe still win the division. I don't think that's the case. You got two teams that are 2-0 right now, and the Saints are 0-2. If they fall any faster, they're out of this thing before it even starts.
I think they're out of it now. I think this is a bad team. We talked about it in the preview that they were headed down the other side of the hill, and they're closer to the bottom than I thought they were. And again, another example of not getting too carried away on the first week of the season. Jameis Winston last week, we would have thought was the worst pick in the history of the NFL. Comes back, puts up a nice solid 14-21 for 207. So
yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I still think this is a bad Tampa Bay team, but the Saints, I think, are in a lot of trouble. They're not going to be good this year.
Minnesota, where your irrational confidence Vikings, they got their first win of the season against the Detroit Vikings. Good turnaround effort from Minnesota. Teddy Bridgewater was much better, very efficient, 14-18, 153, 2 touchdowns. Peterson got a lot more action in this game, 29 carries for 134 yards. 3 turnovers by Detroit, though, and that kind of sinks them in a 26-16 win for your Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, my irrational confidence Vikings looked a lot more like the team I had the irrational confidence in this week than they did last week. The thing about the Vikings, I think, that is tough for them is that looking at the San Francisco 49ers, they had a win against the Vikings. It's still not a good team. Realistically, the Vikings should be 2-0 right now, but they did bounce back nicely against Detroit. Detroit, I'm thinking, might be a little closer to the bottom of that hill than we thought, too.
Yeah, they're 0-2, and they get the Broncos on Sunday night this week.
Yeah, and it's just not going to get any easier for them. They still got to play the Packers twice. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a good season for Detroit. I think that the little playoff run they had there for a few years might be over for a little bit.
Up there in the NFC North also, in Chicago, they were hosting the Arizona Cardinals, Chicago's original football team. It was kind of tight early. Arizona led 21-14, but just before halftime, Jake Cutler throws a pick 6. So the Cardinals go up 28-14. But on that interception return, he pulls a hamstring, they say, or a hamstring injury. It looked kind of like a head-arm thing, but they called it a hamstring. So he goes out. Jimmy Clausen comes in and does awfully for the Bears. The Cardinals go on to win this one 48-23. Big day by Carson Palmer, and not big in terms of yardage or anything like that, but only 17-24, only 185 yards, but 4 touchdowns.
Right.
And a huge day by Larry Fitzgerald, 8 catches, 122, 3 TDs. Vintage Larry Fitzgerald as the Cardinals down the Bears.
Do you know, I think I heard that might be Larry Fitzgerald's first 3-touchdown game yesterday.
It is. Yeah.
Can you imagine? That boggled my mind. I couldn't believe that.
A guy of his caliber, and this is his first 3-touchdown game. It's pretty impressive.
We talked about these Cardinals. They're going to go as far as Carson Palmer can carry them. And yesterday they looked like a team that I think right now, and again, it's only the second week, but right now they look every bit as good as we thought they were going to be. And if Palmer can stay upright, they're going to be a handful. And I like them to win this division.
I do too. Again, it's all in the health of Carson Palmer, but
right.
you just see the difference that he makes in that offense compared to when they have to throw out Drew Stanton.
Well, and with the Bears too, first things first, there's a lot of Bears fans that are saying that, Cutler might have faked the injury so he doesn't have to play. Come on.
Yeah.
That's nonsense. Secondly, you all think that Cutler's so bad. We want Jimmy Clausen. Well, guess what? You got him, and look what you ended up with.
Yeah.
Careful what you wish for, Bears fans.
I guess the Chicago Sun-Times put out a column with 10 quarterbacks that are better than Jimmy Clausen. And one of them was Jeff George.
Were you and I on that list?
Probably. Yeah, so not a good start there for Chicago. 0-2. Nothing really went right. Forte was good last week, not so hot this week. Cutler was obviously bad. Clausen was bad.
And Chris Johnson, remember him? 72 yards for the Cardinals. Not a bad day on the ground.
Not too bad. So big offensive day by the Cards to go up 2-0 and lead the NFC West. Let's go to probably the most talked about, at least prior to the week, early game, as the Buffalo Bills host the New England Patriots. The Bills trying to establish themselves, show that the defense is good. Big win off the Colts last week. And they kind of fell flat, at least in the first 2/3 of that game. The Patriots go up 21 points at one point in the game. Buffalo was able to fight back to within 32 to 37 in the fourth quarter. The Patriots get an interception with about 1 minute left and hold on for the 40-32 victory. The Patriots have now won 23 of the last 24 against the Bills. In the post-game press conference, Rex Ryan put it all on him, said Belichick out-coached him, and they did a, quote, horseshit job. Tom Brady threw for 466 and 3 touchdowns. Tyrod Taylor wasn't bad, 242, 3 TDs, but 3 interceptions on the day. And the Patriots are still the kings of the AFC East and probably the kings of the AFC right now with everything else that's shaking out. They look like the best team in the league still early.
They do, indeed. And it's kind of like the year that they went undefeated in the regular season. It was the year coming off of Spygate. They were mad. They had a point to prove, and they're kind of playing like that again this year. The Bills, they get that nice win against the Colts, which a lot of people thought, 50-50 proposition. They may or they might not beat the Colts in the opening week. They get that. So this doesn't kill them, but, they, as we said, with a team like this, they need to get the wins that they need to get. And this would have been a nice one to have, but the Patriots were just clearly, I don't know if you saw any of this, they were just clearly the better team of the two.
Yeah, clearly just, they're a notch above, not just Buffalo, but the rest of the league at this point.
I think so too. I mean, right now, and again, we're only 2 weeks in, but unlike the overreaction Monday, the second week, you start seeing some things start to develop and you kind of get an idea of who's going to do what. And I think the Bills are right where we thought they were going to be. They're going to be a 9-7, 10-6 team, probably make a run for a wild card playoff spot. But the Patriots, 2 weeks in, have showing no signs of letting up at all. They're still the class of the AFC.
What do you think about Rex Ryan just trying to put that all on himself, right? Take it away from the team.
I think so.
Do you think he wasn't out? I wouldn't say he was outcoached. They were just outplayed.
They're just a better team.
Made the better plays, yeah.
Especially on offense, you just got you've got Tom Brady versus Tyrod Taylor. There's not a sane person in the world that's going to pick Taylor over Brady, and that's a big difference. Even everything else being equal, Brady versus Taylor, that's where that's where the game's won. Gronkowski had another big game. Mm-hmm. They've just got more talent across the board, and that's why. I don't think it was coaching or anything. It's just a matter of you're not as good as they are. And
some of Taylor's interceptions weren't even on him; they were just tip balls. And
right.
The Patriots are one of the best teams in the league at that tip drill, where they just swarm it and get the ball. So. Patriots are better, and the Bills, they'll be fine. Was, they're a team that has to learn. That's something Tyrod Taylor was saying after the game. They just have to learn to how to respond to these games and take the things that they did well and build off that. And I mean, they still scored 32 points.
I was just going to say that it's not like they got beat 40-10. That would be something to be concerned about. But they hung with them. They put up 32, and only lost by a touchdown, even after having 3 turnovers. So that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Let's move on to Cincinnati for another undefeated team as the Bengals hosted the Chargers. The Bengals were up 14-6 at half. The Chargers got close, but the Bengals were able to pull away. Chargers got close again, make it 24-19 with just a few minutes left. Couldn't get the 2-point conversion to keep the rally going. Interception in the final minute by the Bengals, and the Chargers lose 24-19. Bengals, we kind of were down on them to start the season, but they are 2-0 and tied at the top of that division right now, and the Chargers fall to 1-1.
Yeah, the Bengals have been playing pretty decent football, and they're 2-0. And you've got Baltimore, I think, is a team that's in trouble. Mm-hmm. Cleveland's no threat, so it's basically down to the Bengals and the Steelers at this point. And I think the Bengals have played well. Their defense, I thought, looked really solid in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton's not killing them. They've got decent rushing attack. Giovanni Bernard this week with 123. Last week it was Jeremy Hill had a really good day. You've still got some pretty good receivers on that team, so I think they probably might be a little bit better than we thought they were going to be.
Yep. No, the passing game was a little bit better, I think, this week. The first game against the Raiders was just a blowout. And in this game, I thought you saw a little bit more of what the Bengals are, and they're a decent team. They're still a very decent team. They're just I don't know if what we've seen from the Steelers in the first 2 weeks. I don't know if they can keep up with the Steelers when they have to get around to it. But they're still going to be right there in wild card contention like everybody else.
Yep,
they'll be fine.
And they've played the Steelers tough at times over the years. So it's going to be, again, I think they're better than we thought they were going to be. Again, it's only 2 weeks, but right now they look like a team that's a little bit better than the 8-8, 7-9 we thought they were going to end up with.
Let's stay in the state of Ohio as the Cleveland Browns hosted the Tennessee Titans. And the Browns looked really good at the start of this game. Johnny Manziel played pretty well. Cleveland was up 21-0 at one point. Marcus Mariota was sacked 7 times in the game by the Cleveland defense. But he and the Titans were able to fight back to 21-14 in the fourth quarter. But Johnny Manziel went vintage Johnny football in the fourth quarter. The pocket was closing in around him, spun out of pressure, just hurled one towards the end zone, scaring away a few pigeons in the process.
Yeah, there were a lot of birds on the field in that game.
As they get the touchdown there late to win 28-14. Tennessee falls to 1-1, and Cleveland moves up to 1-1. What'd you see from Johnny football in your Cleveland Browns, Greg?
Well, I saw that this is the kind of thing that he can do, but you take away the big plays, and he had a pretty pedestrian afternoon. He wasn't putting up huge numbers, but he got the job done. Yeah, and I think Travis Benjamin is the guy you got to talk about with this Browns team right now. Yeah. Wow, as he had a first couple of weeks of the season, and Marcus,
two big catches in the last 2 weeks. He's getting open deep, and that's again if you're gonna make the knock on Johnny football that he was fine and then gets the big plays. He got the big plays.
Yeah, and if he can keep doing that, I mean that's the key to him. I mean, if I don't think you're going to go out and see him put up Brady type numbers most of the time.
No, of course not.
But he could be a guy that can make enough plays to keep you in games. And
now, I think my question with him going forward though is I guess Josh McCown. It's Josh McCown, right?
Yeah, I think.
Josh. Yes,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. There was some talk that even though he had the concussion last week, that he was close to being cleared by game time this week, wasn't, and that he's going to be fine going into next week. Has Johnny Manziel done enough to not be replaced by Josh McCown when he's officially deemed fully healthy?
Well, from what I understand, what I heard during the middle of the week last week was Mike Pettin said that when McCown comes back, he's the number one starter again. But you're the Cleveland Browns. You're not a Super Bowl contender. You don't have either one of your quarterbacks hard enough to get you there. McCown's 39 years old. Manziel is in his second season. I think if there's ever a time to give the reins of that team to Johnny Manziel, now is it. And you're going to know what you've got. And I think he's done enough. Yeah, I mean, he put up a win. They put up 28 points versus 10 last week, against the Jets. So don't you think he's got to get the starting job at this point?
Oh, I do. I think so too. I was just seeing what you thought, obviously being closer. But
yeah, and Marcus Mariota again. Talk about the week one overreacts.
Yeah, sacked 7 times in the game, man. That's.
I'm amazed he still put up 257 yards because I bounced in and out of that game, and it seemed like every time I flipped over to it, he was getting sacked again or throwing an incompletion. So he managed to recover, but it's just he's going to have good games, he's going to have bad ones, and that's a rookie quarterback. It's about all you can say about it.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the Meadowlands as the Giants hosted the Falcons, and the Falcons looked pretty good early. They were up 10-3. The Giants were able to tie it, though, in a 67-yard TD catch and run by Odell Beckham Jr. And the Giants pulled away a little bit, went up 20-10. They had an 8-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and that's when the Falcons rallied with 14 points in the fourth for a 24-20 win. Matt Ryan, 363 and a touchdown. Julio Jones, 13 catches, 135 yards. The Giants blow a fourth quarter lead for the second straight week in a row. I thought I heard where they were the first NFL team to blow 8-point leads in the fourth quarter in consecutive weeks.
May very well be. I just want to know when Andy Reid or Mike White took over coaching this team.
Yeah, they've blown it late. And I mean,
they had a delay of game call yesterday when they were trying to run. I mean, they just horrific clock management by that team. And the Falcons, hey, you know what? They're 2-0. And my other irrational confidence team, and they're looking solid.
Giants 0-2. Odell Beckham Jr., 7 catches, 146 yards.
That guy's good.
He's good. But the other kind of troubling thing for the Giants, Eli Manning was second on the team in rushing yards this week.
That's not good.
He outrushed Shane Vereen.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
Not at all.
They're 0-2 now. They've blown leads in back-to-back weeks. And with the state of the NFC East, if they can figure themselves out while the Cowboys are going to have their issues and the Eagles are down and Washington's in the middle kind of right now, the Giants have an opportunity to rise up and, maybe take advantage of the down play in the East right now. But I don't see that they can. This is Tom Coughlin's last season, right? He can't. If the Giants continue to play this way, there's no way he makes it out of this season.
I don't think so. And I don't know how. Has he been there more than 10 years?
He's been there a long time. Because
John Madden, way back when he just first became an analyst, he wrote a book and he talked about this, that his belief is that an NFL coach is good for 10 years with one team, then he's got to move on. I think Coughlin has past the 10-year point, and it's just time for him to move on. But Tom Coughlin's a better coach than what has happened to this team in the past 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know but the Giants, you're right, have an opportunity right now to really make some noise in this division, but they just can't seem to get it together. I mean, you lose 2 games that you probably should have won. And that's just, that kind of stuff just steamrolls, I think.
Well, speaking of this division, let's move on to the nation's capital as Washington hosted the Los Angeles Rams of St. Louis. The Rams did not live up to last week's performance this week. Washington was up 17-0 at the half. Rams were able to get it tight, but Washington able to pull away late with a 24-10 win. Kirk Cousins, not terrible. 23 for 27, 203. The big story for Washington, though, was the rookie running back out of Florida, Matt Jones. 19 carries for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big game on the ground for Washington. And they get even at 1-1, and the Rams fall down to 1-1, I should say. The
Rams, I read this somewhere. I don't remember where. I hate to quote things that I can't properly, attribute, but
sure.
Someone said it's such a typical Rams thing to do here, to go out and get a big win against Seattle like that and turn around and fall flat on their face against a team they should beat the following week. This was a chance for the Rams to stay right with the Cardinals in that division. You've got the Seahawks at 0-2. And they go out and just look terrible against a team that they should have beaten. It's as simple as that. And the defense didn't play great. Matt Jones shredded them for 123 yards. Kirk Cousins had a good game. This one's on the Rams. They needed to win this, and then they couldn't do it. And nice job by Washington to get a win. Put one in the win column.
And we just talked about the Giants maybe having an opportunity to step up. With the Giants at 0-2, the Eagles at 0-2, and we'll talk about them and the Cowboys, who are 2-0, but obviously going to go through a rough patch here.
Yes.
Maybe if Washington can build off this run game and Kirk Cousins can be effective, maybe they're the ones that can step up in that place and take advantage of the down play right now.
Well, they certainly are capable of it. We've seen Kirk Cousins play well over the years. We've bought into him so many times now. I can't believe we're about to do it again, but I
don't know if I'm buying into Kirk Cousins as much as I am if they can run like they did today.
Right.
Because Matt Jones showed a lot in this game. Obviously, they still have Alfred Morris, who could be very effective when they use him.
And they did it against a very, very good front seven against the Rams,
who played very well against the Seahawks the week before.
But what I'm saying is if Kirk Cousins can be just effective, he doesn't have to be the Kirk Cousins that put up 400 yards the one time and we're like, oh, my God, trade RG3 and start this guy. But if he can do the stuff like he did in this game against the Rams and the Matt Jones and you've got Albert Morris, I mean, come on, this is a pretty good team. Or not?
And
I shouldn't say they're a pretty good team. They've got an opportunity here. I'm not going to say they're a good team because I don't think they are, but they do have an opportunity.
Right, and they very well could have won last week against the Dolphins too. So they could be 2-0 as well.
Exactly.
They're working it through. They're better than I thought they were going to be this year. Let me say at least that. I thought they were going to be pretty bad, but they're going to be okay.
I think it helps them a lot too not to have the RG3 circus anymore.
Yeah, no, that definitely gets a weight off. I mean, we criticized them for all that in the preview and thought it was just going to weigh on them, but RG3's off to the side. Dan Snyder hasn't said anything lately. There's no lawsuits over the team name currently ongoing, I don't think. So they're just they're sailing under the radar right now, and that's probably good for them.
Well, if team dysfunction can limit the dysfunction a little bit, they've got enough talent to win some football games. I don't know that they're enough under normal circumstances if the Eagles weren't as screwed up as they are and if the Cowboys weren't down a quarterback and their best wide receiver. But like you said, the opportunity's there for them to maybe make some noise in this division. We'll see.
Let's move on to the afternoon games. Miami were up at Jacksonville, I should say. A back-and-forth game, kind of not the best played football, but tied at 20. Jaguars had the ball, driving with 1 minute left. Looked like they were going to get pulled out the field, and this game was going to go to overtime. Except the Dolphins, one of their linemen did a dumb thing, a very dumb thing. Got a personal foul after the play, unnecessary, just stupid. And that personal foul, 15 yards, got the Jaguars in the field goal range. Jaguars hit that field goal to win the game 23-20 with 43 seconds remaining. They move up to 1-1. Miami falls to 1-1. And Blake Bortles, congratulations to you. It's your first game in your NFL career without being sacked.
Really?
Yeah.
He stayed upright the entire time, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big win for them.
Things are looking up in Jacksonville, aren't they?
Yes. I like the way the Jaguars played.
Well, we talked about it for a couple years now that Gus Bradley, we think, has got them pointed in the right direction. Yeah. They're the little team that could right now. They're not going to win the division. I mean, maybe they will. I really seriously doubt it, though.
Well, the division's all in a big mess right now.
Yeah, and but they're a team that they're going to be competitive, and this was a week where they did that. The Dolphins cannot waste 359 yards and 2 touchdowns from Ryan Tannehill and lose that game, but they did. This is the Dolphins. They're just so frustrating because you look at them and you go, they could be good. But they're off to kind of the same start. I won't say the same start, but the same type of thing we saw last season. Winning a close game here, losing when they probably should have won, and I think we're going to see a lot of the same with the Dolphins that we saw last year. I'm taking away my designation of them as the AFC wild card and giving it to the Bills.
Yeah, but those two teams, Buffalo goes down to Miami this week, and I said after last week I wasn't too inspired by Miami as being that wild card team. After this, definitely not. And they have a shot to kind of change their fortune. If they win this game, it'll be big for tiebreaker purposes, kind of getting their confidence back. But to lose to the Jaguars in the fashion they did, too, it just kind of stupidly, and like you said, waste a big day by Tannehill. It's a rough time for the Dolphins. They have the talent, they have the opportunity, they just can't put it together for whatever.
And I'd heard Ndamukong Suh is just out there basically freelancing too. I think I heard that on the Dan Patrick show. They were talking about it, that he's not playing within the scheme that the coaches are putting into the game. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. I think it would be at some point, but they're just a frustrating team. They're tantalizingly close to being good, but they just can't seem to get out of their own way.
Let's go over to the West Coast where the Baltimore Ravens were at the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland, in what was possibly the last NFL game maybe played on a baseball diamond.
Oh, God, I hope so.
If Oakland were to leave the Coliseum, they're the last team to play there, and the A's obviously eliminated from playoff contention. So, and the Raiders don't have a home game here for a little bit. But Oakland was up 30-20 after 3 quarters. Baltimore rallied the tide at 30 in the 4th quarter. Oakland was driving, looking to win. They get intercepted. Baltimore comes back down. They just missed Steve Smith in the end zone. He got the ball, but the second foot didn't drag down as he was falling out of bounds. So they settled for the field goal. They're up 33-30. With 40 seconds left, Oakland's driving again, and it looks like they've been picked off by the same guy at the 5-yard penalty, but they get called for defensive holding. On the next 2 plays later, I should say, Derek Carr hits Seth Roberts for the game-winning touchdown, and the Oakland win this game, move up to 1-1. The Ravens fall to 0-2. Big day for Derek Carr. 30 completions out of 46 attempts, 351, 3 touchdowns. Michael Crabtree, 9 catches, 111 yards. Amari Cooper, 7 catches, 109 yards. And big day for the Ravens with Flacco at 384, 2 TDs. Steve Smith, 10 catches, 150. But not enough, and they fall to 0-2, and they're in trouble.
They are definitely in trouble, and you can really see the difference not having Terrell Suggs is making on that defense already. Mm-hmm. But the thing that impresses me about the Raiders, they put up 37 points, and they put together a nice drive. And the interference call, that was a good call. That wasn't a typical NFL-type deal. I mean, that was a good call, and they capitalized on it. And they showed some of the signs that you said you might see out of them this year in this game. They looked pretty good at times. So who knows? Not bad though, but I think you're right. The Ravens are in big trouble.
Ravens are in big trouble, but I do like that Oakland offense. Derek Carr showed what I think he can do.
Exactly.
Amari Cooper had his first big NFL game. And I think the thing that was surprising was how much Crabtree contributed there for him.
Crabtree's a good player. He just never seemed to realize his potential, but he has moments.
Mm-hmm. I like the Raiders. I don't think they're going to be playoff contenders or anything, but they're on the right path, and that's something that you haven't been able to say about the Raiders in a long time.
Very long time.
And the Ravens at the bottom of the division now, they're 0-2. I think they're miles behind what the Steelers have done in the first 2 weeks. They play the Bengals this week in Baltimore, and that's a big game for them. They have to, if they fall to 0-3, they're done in terms of that division.
Absolutely.
And especially trying to make the wild card in the AFC with how many teams are going to be fighting for that spot late in the year.
Well, you've heard the stats all along. 0-2 teams, only this many make the playoffs. I think the Super Bowl.
8%.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys might have been the only team to ever win a Super Bowl after going 0-2 to start the season. Mm-hmm. and you get to 0-3 and you're pretty much done. I mean, it's not impossible, but boy, you have put yourself in a hole that's going to be really tough to get out of. So week 3 and the Ravens are already in a must-win situation, and you don't want to be there at week 3. That's usually, if you're in a must-win situation at week 3, you're probably not very good to begin with.
Move on to probably the headline of the afternoon games, and I do these chronologically. If we were doing this in terms of importance, I would have put this one right at the top, despite how awful the game was. But
definitely,
the ramifications of it are big for the NFC especially, and the NFC East. Dallas at Philadelphia. Cowboys were only up 6-0 at the half. Like I said, this wasn't the most well-played football game I've ever seen in my life. In the third quarter, they go up 13-0 after a blocked punt for a touchdown. Late in the third, though, when they're up 13-0, Tony Romo gets driven into the ground on his non-throwing shoulder, out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken clavicle. He broke the same collarbone, I think, 3-4 years ago. And for a team that already was down, Des Bryant, who had a bone graft this week, and now reports are saying he might be out longer than expected because of that.
He's probably done for the year, to be honest.
Yeah, they say 10 to 12 weeks, which, practically the entire year.
Yeah, and that foot, the kind of foot injury he has is not one that after 12 weeks you come back and you're right back to normal again.
Tony Romo probably going to be out. They're not going to do surgery, but that means that instead of the early 6, it looks like it's more probable for the long 8.
Yep.
And so the Cowboys' hopes are going to rest on the shoulders, at least for right now, on Brandon Weeden. But Weeden came in with 7-7, threw a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. The Eagles made a little comeback late, but we'll talk about them in a second. As the Cowboys win 20-10, a real Pyrrhic victory for the Cowboys.
This is we talked about shaky 2-0s. Now, I think the Broncos are the shakiest 2-0, but the Cowboys at 2-0. I've never seen a team with a dimmer future after starting the season 2-0.
Right. Yeah, they're 2-0, but it's rough, and the whole entire NFC East is open now because of these injuries. The Cowboys are going to have to struggle. They're not running the ball as well as they were with DeMarco Murray last year.
Exactly.
Brandon Weeden's not exactly Tony Romo. They're going to bring in guys for tryouts because Brandon Weeden was the only quarterback on the roster. The other guys are on the practice squad and things like that, so I don't know who they're going to bring in.
Who's out there right now that would be a decent guy to plug in?
Tim Tebow's sitting on the couch.
I don't know that he'd be any worse, really.
I know they brought in guys like Christian Ponder. They contacted him. I don't know. It's the guys that aren't on NFL teams right now. It's shaky. But Brandon Weeden wasn't bad on when he came in relief, 7-7, like I said, for the touchdown. But as a team, the Cowboys are going to have to rely heavily on their defense, and their defense has been great, though. The defense was really good. They were all over the Eagles in the backfield. But let's switch over to the Eagles because as well as Dallas played, I think part of that is just how bad this Eagles offense has been to start the year.
It's been horrible. It's just been you want to give Chip Kelly the benefit of the doubt, but it's like the more of his stamp he puts on that team, it seems like the worse it gets.
7 total yards rushing for the Eagles on Sunday. DeMarco Murray only 2 yards rushing.
I read a stat that he's on pace to rush for 82 yards this season.
Yeah. On average, the Eagles were getting hit in the backfield against Dallas. For the season, they're last in the league in yards per carry before contact. So the offensive line has been terrible. The Eagles, even against Philly or against Atlanta in week 1, they made some comeback late, and you thought, oh, well, it was a matter of time. But after this week, it looks more and more like the first half Eagles are what you're going to see from them so far. And, with the Cowboys going down, this was an opportunity for them to step up, and now they're 0-2.
Yeah. Who do they have next week?
Not fucking great. Who do the Eagles have next week? The Eagles are 0-2, and they're going to go to the 2-0 Jets, who, if you didn't watch Monday night, they have a pretty good defense too.
Yeah, well, first on the Eagles, like I said, with Chip Kelly, I don't know what's going on there, but you've made moves that people scratch their heads about when you made them, and now it's really looking like they were just not the right moves to make. They looked good for one half against the Falcons. Other than that, they have not looked good on offense. And I don't see – I'm sorry, but I can't look at Sam Bradford as your quarterback and go, they're going to be okay. DeMarco Murray has been basically a non-factor at this point.
And that's not even his fault. I think what the Eagles' biggest problem on offense right now is that offensive line. And you look at the way Chip Kelly's teams play, and I know during the Falcons game they talked about it a lot where, these linemen, they're running around and they got to go east and west and these sweep plays. But those type of linemen that work better are kind of smaller. And I don't know if the Eagles are physical enough to play. DeMarco Murray runs straight forward.
Exactly.
With the Cowboys, they had a big, strong offensive line that ran these zone plays, and he just had to find the hole and go. With the Eagles, the offensive line hasn't been as physical, hasn't been winning the battles, isn't opening lanes, and he has to go side to side, or he's getting hit in the backfield.
Well, he's a traditional running back in the sense of he's more of a, like you said, a between the tackles guy. He's not a guy that I think is going to be great out of running out of a read option or running out of Kelly's offense, and it's really shown up to this point. It's just the Eagles are a mess. But like you said at the start of the season, they're going to be a story every week because they're the Eagles and because of Chip Kelly and all that. I had a crazy notion with the Cowboys. I thought about this after Romo got hurt and what I saw happen with Cutler in Chicago. I mean, it never, ever happens, but what would you think about the Cowboys going, you know what, Bears, we're going to give you a pick or whatever, this and that for Jay Cutler right now?
Well, I mean, Jay Cutler's injured.
Oh, that's true. Okay, yeah, but
if he was healthy, it would be something. If I was the Cowboys, I'd at least ask.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not going to go forward with Jay Cutler.
No. It's a lot of money to take on. I mean, I get that, but I just don't know that. I mean, Brandon Weeden, come on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any backup quarterbacks in the league that Matt Flynn is still with the Packers, right?
No, he's the backup now is
Where'd he go? I forgot.
Isn't he with I thought he was with
we talked about him.
Yeah, he's with is it Minnesota?
I don't remember.
But he's there. I mean, but I don't know. I did hear a stat though on Dan Patrick. I was listening on Monday that Brandon Weeden hasn't thrown an incomplete pass since last November.
Well, that's yes, but
I don't know. The NFC East got it. It really looked like it was the Cowboys and Eagles and everybody else, but it's just suddenly gotten very, very interesting. I don't know if it's going to be very good, but it's definitely going to be interesting.
And of course, the Cowboys were looking like Super Bowl contenders, and now without your quarterback and one of the best wide receivers in the league, even when they come back, they're still not going to be straight in rhythm. The Cowboys are going to have to do a lot of work late in the season, and of course, depending on what happens in the interim, where they stand when all these guys come back.
I think right now, if you're looking at Romo's going to be out for 8 weeks, right? That's going to take you to your 10th game of the season. The worst they can do is go 3-5 over those 8 games. That would put them at a straight up 5-5.
Yeah.
That's the worst they can do. I think, if they can go 500, then they're 6-4. They're probably in the hunt. Anything less than that, forget it.
It's tough times for the Cowboys. Let's move on to Sunday night, and we'll finish off with our 2 teams. First off, your Green Bay Packers hosted the Seattle Seahawks, and this was actually a really entertaining game.
It was.
Green Bay's up 13-3 at half. The Seahawks were able to fight back 13-10 and take a lead 17-13 in the third. In the fourth, the Rodgers to Rodgers connection gets them the touchdown and the 2-point conversion to lead 24-17. Late in the game, the Packers seal it with a one-handed interception from a defensive lineman, and your Green Bay Packers get revenge for last year's NFC title game, win 27-17. The Seahawks fall to 0-2, and the Green Bay Packers move to 2-0. What did you see from your property, the Packers?
I want to just give props to my employee, Aaron Rodgers, for taking a little shot at Russell Wilson after the game.
Does he get a nice Christmas bonus?
I'm going to put a little extra something in his Christmas bonus envelope. Yeah, that was awesome that he did that. I'm just glad they won. I'm still not crazy about the defense. I mean, they did okay. They only gave up 17 points, but there were times in that game where the defense just was like, whoa, this could be a problem. But overall, they got the win. Rodgers is Rodgers, 249, 2 touchdowns. Randall Cobb had a good game. James Starks, 95 yards. That surprised me a little bit.
James Jones, he's been a revelation. I can't believe 2 teams let him go in the offseason.
He's used to playing in that offense, and I guess him and Rodgers have a really good chemistry together, so that helps. But I think the bigger story to me out of this is the Seahawks at 0-2.
I think the interesting thing for them is their offense. They found it a little bit in the second half, but it seems with their offense right now is kind of let Russell Wilson hold on to it for a little bit and find somebody deep. Their offensive identity isn't there. They're trying to run the ball, but Marshawn's not doing all that hot.
Well, I will say this for the Packers defense, too. They did a great job of shutting down Marshawn Lynch. They were fantastic in that aspect.
I don't know if the Seahawks really know what they're trying to do on offense right now. And the defense is still kind of out of sorts, figuring out how to cover for Cam Chancellor's absence. I don't know if this accelerates the Seahawks' need to find a resolution there. But I don't know.
What was the guy's name that played for him this week? Was his name Sheed or something like that?
Yeah.
He didn't play bad, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how if this does speed up the process with the negotiations with Chancellor. The Seahawks are 0-2, and they haven't looked particularly good in either loss. I mean, they scored points against the Rams, but that's a game they probably should have won. And this one, they had moments, but for the most part, yeah, it was just I'm happy. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it, that they're 0-2.
I think the Seahawks obviously got into a big effort against the Rams, and they still were tight with the Packers here late. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They'll turn this around. They'll still be good. They'll still make the playoffs, I think. But they've built themselves a little hole here to try and dig out of.
Especially with the way the Cardinals are playing right now. They I mean, again, a team that's, in a must-win situation in Week 3, the Seattle Seahawks, which I never would have guessed in a million years we'd be saying that.
Let's move on to Monday night, if we must.
Oh, boy.
As the Indianapolis Colts hosted the New York Jets, and 5 turnovers by the Colts in this game. The Jets have now forced 10 turnovers in their first 2 weeks of the season. Dale Rivas had 2 fumble recoveries and interception. The Colts looked just terrible. Terrible offensive line play. The Jets were pressuring Luck all night long. Jets were up 10-0 at the half. And to start the third quarter, the Colts had a good drive. They had a 10-minute drive going, but Frank Gore fumbled at the goal line. The Jets recovered, and that was really a backbreaker. The Colts did score a touchdown in the fourth quarter, make it 10-7. The opportunity was still there, but the defense was not good. They had some injuries in the secondary, and the Jets took advantage of that. And overall, I just don't think the defense is all that good. They pull away, and they win 20-7. Colts fall to 0-2, and the Jets surprisingly moved to 2-0 on the strength of that defense that's been extremely good here in the first 2 games.
I'm going to cut the Colts a little bit of slack on defense because they were down 4 cornerbacks at one point in that game.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I don't care who your quarterback is. If you're playing, because I don't even know, what do they carry? Maybe 6 on a team for the most part?
Yeah. They kept saying one of the corners that was playing, those were his first snaps on defense in his career. He'd priorly been a special teams guy. But they were thin for sure in the secondary. But.
And I know the Jets defense has been highly touted this year, but come on. 5 turnovers. I think that's the answer to your game right there. You can't turn the ball over 5 times in the NFL and expect to win anything. And that killed them. But they're in trouble too. Fortunately for them, they're in a division that the 0-2 start's not going to kill them as much as it was in other divisions. But wow.
Right. Yeah, they're 0-2. The Texans are 0-2, and then the Titans and Jags are 1-1. So it's not like they're at the bottom of a pile just yet. But
no, I mean if you're going to be 0-2 in any division, this one or the NFC South is probably the one to do it in. But I'm just surprised that what'd they score last week? The Colts.
14 points.
Yeah, 14-7 in the first 2 weeks. That is just something's not right here.
I can tell you exactly what's wrong. It's the offensive line. The offensive line sucks. I already knew that they couldn't run block. They're not blocking for Luck, so he's constantly being pressured. The receivers aren't getting open. They can't run the ball, so there's no threat. They're just keying in on Luck. And he's trying to do it all by himself right now, really. But that also doesn't excuse some of the throws he made, which were terrible. He hasn't been playing well, and the whole team is just off right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going wrong, but I think for me it all starts at the offensive line. They showed a graphic last night with the offensive line turnover that's been there since Luck has been there. There's been like 8 guards, 7 tackles, and they're just running through these guys. I think the most important unit on a football team, and that's, maybe this is me being biased a little bit. I played offensive line in high school, but I think the most important element of a football team is your offensive line.
Oh, I have no argument with that at all. It's absolutely the most important thing on a team. Without it, you can't do anything. You
literally can't do anything.
Right.
The Colts have issues, but for me, it starts right there on the O-line.
I agree completely with the offensive line. And not only do you have to have a good offensive line, but it has to be a unit.
Yes.
You can't just stick 5 guys out there that are all really good. They have to be able to work together. You can't run in 8, 9 guys over the course of a couple years and expect to have anything happen. And that's a problem. And again, an 0-2 start, they're in a division where that's not the end of the world, but they do have some issues they've got to fix and right away.
I still think they're going to win the division at the end of the day, but You look at how they've played, and you compare that to how New England's played, the team that they were looking to overcome in this conference, and they're just not close. Jets are 2-0.
I know. Well,
that defense looks really good.
It really does. And we talked about it. We said if Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't kill them, they're going to be tough.
Exactly. He's middle of the road NFL quarterback, and that's fine. That's fine for them. They're running the ball fine. He's getting the ball to Brandon Marshall. They're working well as an offense. So the defense, if the defense can play like it has in the first 2 weeks, the rest of the way, I don't know if they're wild card caliber, but they might be able to get into that conversation. And at the very least, they're going to mess it around for some teams.
It all comes down to the quarterback play. I mean, Chris Ivory's not a bad back. You got Decker as your wide receiver. Brandon Marshall's there now. The defense is solid. And if Fitzpatrick can just do the job, don't get carried away, don't make a lot of dumb turnovers and stuff, they're going to be very tough.
Looking ahead to week 3, some interesting matchups. You got the Falcons at the Cowboys. This is kind of big for both teams. Maybe the Falcons get that extra win that they didn't think they were going to have.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys trying to show that they can still win in these rough times that they're going to have to face.
The Falcons can wrap up this division next week.
The Colts look to turn things around here with the Titans, so that'll be interesting. A game that might have not been interesting at the beginning of the season, but I think this is actually kind of intriguing. Raiders at the Browns.
Ooh, rematch of the 1980 playoff game. Red Right 88. Browns fans know what I'm talking about. This Browns team, they played the Titans. We know the Titans weren't going to be very good this year. I'm not impressed. That was a nice win.
No, of course not.
I think this is, is it going to have playoff implications? I seriously doubt it, but it might be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, it'll be a fun game, I think.
And unfortunately, last year it would have been a damn near a cinch for my best uniform list of the week. This year, probably not.
No.
Did you see? I will ask you this really quick about the Browns. They wore the all white. It
looked better.
I thought it looked better.
Of the combinations that they have to wear, I think that's the best they could probably do.
I think the orange jersey over white might not be half bad either. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Yeah. But yeah,
who was your?
Haven't done it yet. I had to wait till after last night's game to see what the Jets were, so it will be released later today. I can give you an idea real quick here. Let me just go to look at the matchups again real fast. Texans Panthers is going to be in there somewhere. 49ers Steelers definitely. Lions Vikings will probably make the best list. Patriots Bills got a shot. Not a lot of really horrible matchups this week. Buccaneers Saints will probably be on the worst list. So not a lot to work with this week.
Yeah, the Saints wearing the white jerseys in the dome.
Well, and if they put on the gold pants, it would look pretty good. But those black pants have got to go. Anyway.
Other games to look forward to next week. Bills at the Dolphins. I think it's big in terms of getting that team that's going to get that extra edge when it comes to the wild card hunt later in the year. And I think an early contender for your game of the week next week, Monday night, Chiefs at Packers.
You can write that one in right now. It'll be there somewhere. I was going to say, too, I forgot to mention Eagles-Cowboys will definitely be on the best list this week, too.
I don't know why the Cowboys are just so afraid of those stupid blue jerseys.
Well, not only that, but why can't you fix your colors? Because all the colors match on the road jersey, the uniform, and it looks fantastic.
So that's the National Football League. Move on to the college football ranks, week 3 in the NCAA. We'll start with your number 1 team of the land, your Ohio State Buckeyes. What's up with the Buckeyes, Greg? Only a 20-13 win over Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois was up 10-3, tied 10-10 at half, and the quarterback play for Ohio State has been subpar. You look at it before the season, it was, they have this embarrassment of riches, all these quarterbacks. Cardale Jones, 4-9, 36 yards, 2 interceptions. JT Barrett, 11-19, 97 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. What's up?
Well, the problem is pretty simple here with the Buckeyes. There's 2 things. Well, 3 things, actually. Northern Illinois is not a bad team, so we'll give them the credit. I don't want to make it sound like it was all Ohio State's fault that they didn't win this game bigger, because Northern Illinois played great football. But you've had Cardale Jones start 3 games for the Buckeyes this season. He's been yanked in all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So you've got to make a decision here, and I think that decision has to be JT Barrett. Cardale Jones played great for 3 games last year. JT Barrett put up record-setting numbers in the Big Ten over a course of a season last year. And as long as Urban Meyer keeps thinking he can just keep playing these 2 guys like this is what's going to be the result. I know they talk about how these guys are great friends and this and that and the other thing, and that's all well and good for them, but it doesn't do a damn bit of good for the rest of the team on offense. You need to pick a guy, go with them, and be done with it. There's your first problem. Second problem is this team thinks that they can just show up and 40 points will magically appear on the scoreboard. It doesn't work that way. You've still got to go out and play the games. That's what's wrong with the Buckeyes.
Well, they still win the game and still manage to stay at number 1, 42 first-place votes. Last week, the number 2 team in the country was the Alabama Crimson Tide. And yes, I'm speaking in past tense because what a game you had in Tuscaloosa against the then number 15 Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss up 10-3, up 17-10. And at the start of the third quarter, you had probably one of the best plays we're going to have in college football all year. So in the shotgun, quarterback takes the snap. It's high, goes off his hands, straight up in the air. He's able to pull it down, and without even looking, just turns and chucks it to the far side of the field. The Ole Miss receiver goes up to go get the ball, goes off his hands and chest, into the air, pulled down by another Ole Miss receiver who's streaking by, and runs 66 yards for the touchdown. Ole Miss gets another touchdown in the fourth quarter to go up 43-24. Bama fights back a little bit, gets an onside kick, and gets a touchdown with just 4 minutes left for a 43-30. Or gets the touchdown and bring it close. But Ole Miss holds on to beat Alabama 43-37. It's the first time in school history that Ole Miss has beaten Alabama in consecutive seasons. Ole Miss moves up to number 3 in the poll, 11 first-place votes. They move up 12 spots to be tied with TCU at number 3. Alabama falls down to number 12. What a game in Tuscaloosa.
I just want to say, too, that I like how Ole Miss showed up wearing the powder blue helmets that they hadn't worn since forever, and all that. But interesting that crazy touchdown turned out to be the difference in the game, I think. Yeah. But, first off, I'm going to say something that might be considered just absolute heresy in college football.
Yeah.
Is Alabama maybe not as good as we think they are?
I think so. The quarterback play for them has not been good at all. It was something that was brought up during the week and why some people thought Ole Miss had a shot here. The quarterback play was very inconsistent. They weren't all that accurate in the first 2 weeks, and they probably should have had more interceptions than they had, but they were playing subpar teams, as these teams do in the first couple weeks. Against Ole Miss, they were playing a legitimate defense that's very good, was good last year, the Land Sharks, as they called them, and they paid. The passing was not on point. They made some interceptions, and Ole Miss took advantage, and the offense was good. Their quarterback was very efficient, and they put up 43 points on the Tide. And Ole Miss led up 37, and Alabama still scored the 37, but the game was gone by the time Alabama finally got into it, and Alabama just wasn't as good. They simply weren't as good, and Ole Miss, they deserve all the praise they get, and they should be where they are. They won that game fair and square and played immensely well, very well.
I just think that Alabama, again, an Alabama team that's not as good as we think they are still pretty good.
Right.
I'm not saying they're terrible or anything, but I'm wondering if we're starting to see, a little bit of everybody catching up with Alabama, the SEC getting guys to come play elsewhere instead of Alabama, the whole package, because if you look at it, they beat Wisconsin in week 1, 35-17. Well, I think we all agree that Wisconsin, while a fairly solid team, not a team that's going to give Alabama a lot of trouble. They go out and beat up on a cupcake. When they finally play a tough team this year, they lose. You go back to last year, and Ohio State, you can look at the score all you want, but Ohio State dominated that football game against them last year. They aren't the team that used to be able to, you see Alabama show up and you go, the other team's in trouble, I don't care who it is. They're not that anymore. And I think it makes football more interesting, but I got to give Ole Miss all the props in this, and they just played a great game and beat a team in Alabama, and that's not easy to do.
Now, again, last season Alabama lost to Ole Miss, and they still were able to fight back and make the playoff. So, and this happens a lot when Alabama has won in recent years. And the other thing that's interesting that was brought up, and I remember in the preview I said at some point Alabama has been ranked number 1 in the country every year since Nick Saban has been there, right?
Right.
Also, the last 6 years when they've been ranked number 2 or better in the country, they've lost at some point that year as number 2 or number 1. So that's something interesting that Alabama just hasn't been able to put together those undefeated seasons like we used to see all the time in college football.
Yeah, I don't think that they're bad or that they're not
no, of
good.
Course not.
They're just not. They're not as. They've dropped us. I don't know if the rest of college football's caught up with them or they've dropped a little bit, but they're beatable now. Which used to be they would still lose, But it took like a miracle for it to happen. You don't need that anymore.
I think they've dropped a little bit, and obviously I think it's straight there at the quarterback. The running back is fine. Derrick Henry's good. But, you think of all the quarterbacks Alabama's had recently, guys like A.J. McCarron and stuff like that, and these guys just aren't – what they have right now just isn't up to snuff. And really that's the same with the entire SEC. There's not – quarterback play is down across that entire conference. And Alabama's right there at the forefront.
I'm thinking the SEC outside of Dak Prescott, who's the guy that jumps off the page at you?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about our new favorite in the SEC, LSU, in a minute, and they're not even really bothering to give the quarterback the ball.
They don't need to.
No, they don't need to, but imagine what LSU could be if they had a quarterback.
I still think
what Alabama could be if they had a quarterback.
I still think LSU will find a semblance of a passing game, which will make them even tougher. But yeah, Alabama, that's just a great win for Ole Miss. And I did not know that that's the first time it's ever happened that they've beaten them in consecutive years. Of all the years they've played, you think it would have happened before now?
Yeah. So that was probably the big result of the weekend.
Yeah, definitely.
Some other upsets that we'll get to here in a minute. As number 3 TCU, they win over SMU 56-37. SMU is a good team.
They aren't bad.
They've scored a lot of points this year. They're going to be good in terms of that, second level of college football.
Who did they played Baylor in the first week and gave them fits for a while. Was it Baylor?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Baylor. Yep.
Played them tough for a half. Yeah. They're not bad.
So TCU stays at number 3. They're tied with Ole Miss in the rankings this week. That's always weird. I just pick one. Number 4, Michigan State takes care of business at home over Air Force 35-21. And Michigan State, with the Alabama loss, and TCU staying where they are, Michigan State moves from 4 to number 2. 7 first-place votes for this party this week.
Yeah, I don't know if I think
I'm not on board with that.
I'm not either. I think TCU's better. I think
Ole Miss is better. I think TCU's better.
Yeah, I do too. I have to agree.
But they're probably going to stay right where they are until maybe Michigan steps up and beats them in the rivalry game, or until they play Ohio State.
Yeah, the Michigan State and Michigan game's coming up pretty soon here, isn't it? A couple weeks from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baylor's number 5. They did not play. They stay at number 5. So that brings us to last week's number 6, the USC Trojans. I was there in the Coliseum for this one as they played the Stanford Cardinal, and this was the Stanford that we're used to seeing. This was the Stanford that was a perfect Stanford game for the Cardinal. USC's offense was fine. They scored 31 points. But they hit a lot of underneath routes, and they got some blocking downfield for some longer touchdowns. But they didn't really throw the ball deep. They were up for the majority of the first half, and I made the mistake of, it was going into halftime. I thought that Stanford was just going to run the ball and be done with it. And I was like, okay, well, now's a good time to go get in line for food. Because the way Coliseum works, it's all one big bowl, and all the things are down at the ground level, so you got to fight everybody in the whole stadium for food.
Right.
So we go down, and where I can stand, I can see the corner of this new scoreboard sticks out over the edge of the bowl, and I can see Stanford's logo and their score. So I keep looking up. I'm like, oh, so they're still playing? I thought this thing would be done by now. And then all of a sudden the thing changes to a 24. And I said, oh, they scored a touchdown. Well, that touchdown was Stanford taking the lead, and a lead they would not give up as they would go through the second half. They were extremely efficient. 8 of 12 on third down. USC could not get Stanford off the field in this game. The defense was really underwhelming for me for SC. And Stanford, like they've done many a time, marches into the Coliseum and knocks off a ranked USC team 41-31. USC falls all the way down to 19. Stanford jumps back into the rankings at 21 after what we thought was a bad loss to Northwestern the first week. Turns out not as bad of a loss. And Stanford comes in with a big win over the Trojans in the Coliseum. Where would Stanford be right now, though, without that loss to Northwestern? I'd put them at least top 15, definitely. I don't remember where they started. I think they were 17 or 18 at the beginning. They'd be a top 10 team. I have to agree. Possibly. But I heard a stat, too, that Stanford against the Southern California teams, which is USC and UCLA, had this incredibly, like a 7-2 record against them in the last 9 times they've played them. Yeah, like Stanford's really good against the Southern California teams as of late. But yeah, well, we talked about it, though. You weren't entirely on board the USC hype train yet, and neither was I, and maybe we just got a little example of that they're headed that way, but they're not quite there yet. Yeah, the offense was fine. Like I said, they scored 31 points. They weren't bad, but they didn't really throw deep a whole lot. The running game was just okay. Cody Kessler was fine, not of the Heisman caliber that some people had put him up to be, but again, this was just one game. But like I said, this was the perfect Stanford game. They controlled the clock. They were efficient on third down. They ran the ball. They ran play action. Kevin Hogan was very effective. This was the perfect execution of the Stanford game plan, and it worked again to beat SC. So just a great performance by Stanford, and USC, they've got a big game this week now, and now the meat of the schedule starts to hit some of these teams that, yeah, you played a bunch of these cupcakes. Well, here's the meat of the schedule, SC. You just host a Stanford home, you'll lose. Now you're at 19 in the rankings, and you're playing the Pac-12 South now, and they go on the road to Tempe to play Arizona State, who's been waiting for their chance to get back into the race nationally after a big loss in week 1. So the tests are starting to come hard and heavy for the Pac-12.
Yeah. I still think it's a very good conference, and they're going to cannibalize each other. So whoever comes, if somebody can come out of this with one loss and win that thing, you got to guarantee them a playoff spot. But it's going to be brutal. Right. I mean, because
that's the one downfall that the Pac-12 might fall into, is beating itself up, and especially because you look at it right now as we got kind of through the rest of this. We'll talk about Notre Dame here in a second, but I think when you look at what you got with Ohio State or Michigan State, whoever wins the Big 12 or Big 10, excuse me, Ole Miss now, or whoever wins the SEC,
LSU.
TCU, Baylor, that's 3 teams, and I think Notre Dame has been you keep thinking that they're kind of a paper tiger, not going to step up to it. They've played well enough that I think if you were going to make a playoff ranking right now, I'd put Notre Dame into that 4, and then the Pac-12 is going to have to make sure that one of them that they don't end up with like 2 or 3 losses at the end of it.
Notre Dame, I'm still not sold on them.
But if you're looking at 4 teams
right now, yeah, I have to agree.
I wouldn't put UCLA in there.
No.
Yet.
No, I have to agree.
I know they don't want to put 2 teams from the same conference. I definitely wouldn't put Florida State or Clemson in there right now.
No. Absolutely. I mean, Florida State had a hell of a time with Boston College on Friday.
Yeah. But, SC falls. So let's move down the rankings. Georgia wins 52-20 over South Carolina. They stay at number 7. Number 8 was Notre Dame. They hosted the number 13 Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck. Game we were really looking forward to.
I really expected a lot more out of Tech than this.
Yeah, Notre Dame went up 30-7 at one point during the game. Georgia Tech got 2 TDs in the final minute of the game. Weird coincidences there to bring it close. But Notre Dame wins 30-22. They move up to number 6 in the rankings, and Georgia Tech falls all the way down to 20. Impressive win by Notre Dame, do you think?
Kinda. I mean, I think that it's a good win. Tech was ranked, I think, going into it, weren't they?
Yeah, team.
Yeah, it's a good win. I don't know if it's an impressive win. I expected a little more out of Georgia Tech, but I'm still not sold on Notre Dame. I'm sorry. They've had too much. I'm just not there with them yet. I need to see them beat a couple more teams, and then maybe I might get on board. But right now, they're still the same Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I think by week 10 or 11, they're going to have a couple of losses and be completely out of the conversation.
We just mentioned them. The number 9 last week was the Florida State Seminoles. They win just barely, 14-0 at Boston College. Obviously, the defense gets the shutout, but they only had an offensive touchdown in the first quarter, and they didn't score anything else until a fumble recovery touchdown in the fourth. For a 14-0 win, they fall down a spot to number 10. We talked about that. Maybe Florida State's still good, and just because they lost Jameis Winston, they're not bad. They're not bad, but they're not national championship caliber or even playoff caliber.
No. If Boston College had any kind of an offense whatsoever, they would have won that game.
Yeah, their defense was really impressive in this game for the Eagles.
It really was, but they could not put anything together offensively. Now, I don't know how much credit you want to give to the Florida State defense for that, but all they needed basically was just to have just a couple of decent drives and put a couple scores on the board, and they win that game. It's as simple as that. So Florida State was not impressive. The defense played great, but with Boston College's offense, I don't know how much credit to give to the Florida State defense. So I'm not there with Florida State either.
Last week, UCLA was at number 10, and God, that's frustrating. They rally and barely win against the number 19 BYU Cougars, 24-23. Josh Rosen, the Rosen one.
Oh God.
11-23, only 160 yards, 3 interceptions, but BYU is just unable to capitalize. Only 3 points off those turnovers. UCLA rallies late with a touchdown. They stayed tight with them all game as BYU wasn't able to capitalize on the turnovers, like I said. BYU gets an interception in the final minute as the Magic falls short for the Cougs. UCLA moves up to number 9, and BYU falls to number 22.
I told you to watch this game. I remember saying don't pick an upset here, but BYU is going to play them tough, and they did. And
this was a game BYU should have won, though. Yeah, 3 interceptions and only 3 points off those turnovers.
They should have won. That's the thing, though. But that's what we're talking about with UCLA. I'm sorry, I'm not buying into them.
No.
I'm just not there with them yet. No,
definitely not buying into the Bruins quite yet. Last week, number 11 was the Clemson Tigers. They win a sloppy game, tight game over Louisville at 20-17. They stay at number 11.
Is Louisville 0-3 now?
Yeah.
Because I think that
but they're not a bad team, though.
I was just going to say, I think they're 0-3, but it's a really good 0-3 if there's such a thing.
Yeah, they've scheduled tough. And
yeah.
Congratulations to you, Louisville. You're one of the few teams.
You're 0-3, and that's all. You're still 0-3. You put a nice schedule together, so I guess there's that.
Yeah. Number 12 was Oregon, and they were tight early with Georgia State. And ended up pulling away late for a 61-28 win. 21 points in the third quarter for Georgia State, so the defense slipped up there a bit for the Ducks. Vernon Adams, the quarterback transfer, did not play in this game with a broken index finger on his throwing hand. Georgia State, obviously not any team that Oregon was going to lose to, I don't think, but it was kind of a iffy proposition early, but of course they pull away late. But Oregon falls to number 13. Not impressed with Oregon this year.
No, not so much. I mean, they played Michigan State tough, but I'm not so sure how good Michigan State is this year either.
No. I mean, if the Stanford that showed up in the Coliseum this weekend were to play the Oregon that's played in these first few weeks, Stanford's going to beat Oregon if that's the case. We move to who was the number 13 team, the Louisiana State Tigers, as they hosted the number 18 Auburn Tigers. And
how has Auburn managed to stay ranked at this point? I mean, up to this week, I should say.
Yeah, well, they're not there anymore. After LSU had a big 45-21 win, they just ran through, over, and around Auburn. Leonard Fournette, 19 carries, 228 yards, 3 touchdowns, several highlight reel runs, just trucking over guys and jumping in and out of cuts. And he was very impressive in this game for LSU. As I mentioned, LSU, the passing game's still not really there, only 74 yards passing. But they win the game. They move up to number 8 in the polls. They actually got a first-place vote out of this game. And, of course, Auburn, their fall is complete. They get out of the rankings after this week.
Every year, you always miss on a few teams with the preseason rankings. But Auburn was ranked, 5, 6?
6.
When we did the preview?
6.
I don't remember missing on a team that badly in a long time.
Their quarterback is just not good. And Jeremy Johnson is not what anyone thought he was, and they're not running the ball well. Will Muschamp's defense is not good this year.
It's they are just, they're just not a good football team. And I was looking at them as like a potential national championship contender, but nah.
A lot of people were.
But my LSU Tigers, a team I said to watch, look at them go. And when you've got an Abrams tank in the backfield, it takes away a lot of problems in your passing game, believe me.
Yeah. No, again, the running game is impressive. And that's good. But when they get up against a defense that is going to try to shut him down, and they have to later in the season, they're going to have to win a game by throwing the ball.
Yeah.
As good as the running game is, somebody's going to find a way to at least bottle them up for a game or a half or 2/3 of the game. The passing game is going to have to show up at some point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They can't do this. Like when they get to Alabama, they're going to have to know how to throw the ball at least a little bit. Mm-hmm. They can't just, and Ole Miss too, they can't just roll it out there and let them run all day long. That's not going to work against those teams. But I'll tell you what, at this point in the season right now, being a fan of the defending national champions, let's say that the Buckeyes have to play LSU to win it all. I don't like the Buckeyes' chances. Jesus, that kid's, but yeah. I like how LSU looks so far. I think they will find a way to get the passing game straightened out, but you're right. Until they do, I don't know that they can knock off an Alabama or an Ole Miss without it.
Number 16 was Oklahoma. They hang tight early with Tulsa, but pull away for a 52-38 win. They move up to number 15. Number 17 was the Texas A&M Aggies. They defeat Nevada pretty well, 44-27, move up to number 14. Number 20, it was the Arizona Wildcats, and they beat up on poor NAU, the Lumberjacks, 77-13. Arizona hasn't played anyone, but somehow with a big win over NAU, they move up 4 spots to number 16.
I see. This bugs me when you've got. Well, no, I guess Nevada. You could almost say they almost played someone.
Nevada was an okay team,
but come on. I mean, you've got UT San Antonio, Nevada, and NAU. I just don't know. Okay, if they're already ranked at a certain point, fine. But I can't see moving them up after winning those games.
No, and when I got back from the SC game, I went to a sports bar to get some food. And they had the Arizona game on, and they were up by like 55 or 60 points, and they were still throwing the damn ball late in the game.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, Arizona? It's poor NAU, the Lumberjacks. Leave them alone. Every year they just get traded between ASU and Arizona and get beat up year after year.
Well, you know, they gotta make money too.
Yeah. So that's that. Utah wins 45-24 over Fresno. They move up to number 18. Utah, again, was still throwing the ball late in that game. Apparently, something that I wasn't really paying attention to, of course, but a bad beat in the cover for this game. I think Fresno State was favored by 21, and they were right there through the majority of the game, or maybe it was less than that. And then Utah kept throwing the ball when they were up 20 points. And it's like, just kneel. It's the final minute. Kneel and go home. And then they scored a touchdown to break the cover. Poor people in Vegas.
Yeah.
Number 22 was the Mizzou Tigers. And this was a little too close for comfort. Only a 9-6 victory over UConn. That was an ugly, ugly game.
Wow.
UConn, they were down 9-6. They had the ball at the third. I think it was going to be a really long field goal. But they lined up to take the field goal to tie to go to overtime with like 30 seconds left. UConn went for the fake field goal pass, but Mizzou was all over it. And you're kicking the ball from like 54 yards. Yeah, sure. Try the fake field goal. They got the blitz in there and they intercepted them to hold on to win 9-6. But this is a Missouri team that lost to Indiana last year. I forget who they lost to the year before. But every year they have one of these big clunkers that still manage to win the SEC East.
Didn't Bowling Green knock them off a year or two ago? Is that who I'm thinking of?
No, what happened was Bowling Green beat Indiana, but Indiana beat Mizzou.
Oh, okay.
So it was in the theory that Bowling Green beat Missouri.
Well, the point being is that
9-6 over UConn?
I mean, yeah, come on. UConn's not good. I mean, it's not like a Northern Illinois, which is a pretty good team in the mid-level conference. That's UConn. They have to make up rivalries. That's UConn football.
So Mizzou, despite the win, they fall to number 25. Number 23 is the Northwestern Wildcats. They go on the road and win a very smart game, 19-10 over Duke. They move up to number 17 in the rankings. Number 24 was Wisconsin. They win 28-3 over Troy. They move up to number 22 and are tied with BYU in the rankings. Oklahoma State with a big win, 69-14 over UT San Antonio. They moved to 24. Only game that's outside of the rankings that I want to talk about was that Cal-Texas game. Did you see this thing, Greg?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
The teams were tied 24 at halftime. Cal gets 21 points in the third to go up big. Shut out Texas in the quarter. Texas is forcing a furious comeback, and they get within 1 point late in the fourth quarter. All they have to do is kick the extra point, and they go to overtime, and it's going to be fine. But the kicker shanks the extra point wide right with 1:11 left in the game, and the Cal Golden Bears hang on to win this one 45-44. Freshman quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, Jared Hurd, school record for offense, 527 total yards in this game. That's a rough way to lose. That's just, especially after a furious comeback, and you just shank the extra point with a minute left. Oh,
that's the way things have been going for the Texas Longhorns over the past few years.
Looking ahead to week 4, this is a big week, as I mentioned, with the Pac-12 conference schedule really starting up and some important games here. College game day will be at Tucson as number 9 UCLA goes to number 16 Arizona.
I think what's going to happen here is you're going to see Arizona get exposed in this one. I'm not ready to say UCLA is a really good team yet, but I'm not buying into Arizona just yet. Maybe they are good, I don't know, but they haven't shown me anything on their schedule yet that makes me think that they're a great team.
One way or the other, one of these teams is going to get exposed. I don't think either is should be ranked where they are.
Right.
Number 18, Utah is at number 13, Oregon.
That could be a very interesting game.
I liked Utah. Utah's been known to knock off a few big teams every year. As I already mentioned, too, number 19 USC goes to Tempe, take on the Sun Devils of Arizona State.
What do you think in that one?
I like the Sun Devils. I think they can score points. Their defense was fine. I wasn't too impressed with USC seeing them in person. They're good, but they're not next level good, I don't think.
The only thing
but again, you look at these schedules, and this is any one of these teams could win or lose any of these games, and that's the beauty of the Pac-12, but also could be ultimately its downfall when it comes to postseason play. And that's the football slate for the weekend. Any last words before we send the fine folks off into the wild blue yonder, Greg?
I've bitched enough about Ohio State, so no, I got nothing. Just go Pack.
Go Colts. You got to get something going, and go Sun Devils. Knock the snot out of the Trojans, please. For Greg, I'm Zach. This has been Basically a Football Show. Follow us on all the platforms. Follow the Basically Podcast Network. Little reprieve from Basically a Sports Show the last couple of weeks as scheduling's not working out, but we'll get back to you when things sort themselves out next week.
All right.
Enjoy the football this weekend, folks, and we'll catch you next week.
It was fiercely fought, but frightfully flawed. Let's take that over again.